Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 1. This is a new series not unlike my last series, so just like last time, if you like it, make sure you're commenting and following. Today we're spotlighting Edward William Barton Wright's Bartitsu, a gentleman martial arts style that came to prominence in the late 1800s. The primary martial arts style of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. Like with most personal styles of martial arts, it's really just a hodgepodge of different martial arts blended together to focus on different ranges. For close quarter combat, he focused on an eclectic style from the Orient known as Jiu-Jitsu. Being a Brit, he obviously focused on Western boxing for the boxing range. Does that look like Theodore Roosevelt? He pulled his kicking from a French style known as savate, which we'll probably cover in a later video. And probably most notably, Le Chana from France for the long range, cause every gentleman had a cane back then. Barton Wright ran his Bartitsu club for about 3 years, and because it focused on wealthy socialites, it got a lot of free press. It didn't last long though, cause we know rich people don't fight their own fights. Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 2. For past and future installments of this series, plus other stuff, like and follow. Check out the Hausa martial arts style of Dambi. It is an African style, similar to mixed martial arts, that came into prominence in Nigeria, Niger, as well as Chad. One of its major distinctive features as a sport is that the strong hand was wrapped in corded rope, while the other hand remained exposed. The exposed front hand was used to parry, block, and even grapple, while the corded rear hand was used for the strength and hitting. And though I couldn't find any photos depicting this, the lead leg was said to have been wrapped in chains for things like leg shields and occasionally kicking. This martial arts style was said to be pioneered by butchers traveling from town to town to sell their meat. These butchers needed a way to defend themselves from robbers while traveling lightly and to not be clad with too much so that they could do their work. It's still practiced in competition to this day in its rawest of forms in Africa. Google it, it's pretty badass. Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 3. Hey, remember to like and follow to keep this video series going. Today's weird martial arts style hails from the great country of Thailand. And if you guessed Muay Thai, well, you'd be wrong. This is a series about martial arts styles you probably don't know. So we're exploring Kabikabang, a weapons-based martial art designed for the Royal Bodyguard Corps of King Rama IX. Its name translates directly to sword and staff, though it's probably most well known for its use of the Thai Dab, which is a sacred sword to its practitioners. The easiest way to describe this martial art is imagine the power and explosiveness the Thai people bring to their kickboxing, now put swords in their hands. I mean, these guys hit with so much intensity during training that it's not uncommon for their swords to spark, like a lot. Like its sister art of Muay Thai, it has become an intense historical and cultural identity of Thailand. It even has its own ceremonial Ram Muay, just like Muay Thai. Now, if you like this series, make sure you're following to get more. Hey, I'm back. It's Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 4, I think. If you missed this series while I was on vacation, hit the follow button so you never have to miss it again. Today's interesting martial arts style is known as Jailhouse Rock. Wait, what? No. Also known as 52 hand blocks, it's a martial arts style that was developed in America's prison systems. Although likely developed independently of the Filipino style of Panatukan, it shares a lot of resemblance. If you'd like me to cover Panatukan in a future video, let me know in the comment. This martial arts style employs so-called dirty boxing styles to attack everything, including the hands. Because there's no protective handwear in prison, it's a good defense. Because of the close quarter nature of prison self-defense, practitioners practice in close, with strikes, elbows, taking angles while grappling. Some people doubt the existence of this martial arts as a systemized self-defense style in prison, writing it off as prison karate. But both Zab Judah and Mike Tyson have verified the existence of this martial arts from the inside. Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 5. I'll make you a deal. If you've heard of this martial art before but still learned something new, you gotta hit follow. Today, let's cover the Afro-Brazilian style of Capoeira. You probably recognize this martial arts style from the film Only the Strong in 1993 or by Eddie Gordo from Tekken. It's a very social martial art, played in a circle full of people known as the Roda to loud, festive music. It started as a martial arts style known as Ngolo in Africa until people that look like that douchebag decided the best way to bring up the value of Brazil was to own people as property. After coming to Brazil, Ngolo was revolutionized into what we now know as Capoeira or Capoeira Regional. You see, slave owners weren't too keen on the idea of their slaves knowing how to kick their ass. So the Africans disguised their martial arts as a dance to fool slave owners. Now, unlike most other martial arts, the goal of a capoeirista is not necessarily to land kicks. Instead, they use feints and footwork to outmaneuver and outposition their opponent, going for a sweet sweep. Now hit that follow. Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 6. By the way, my views are going down and I don't know why, so if you're liking what you see, make sure you follow to get all this content. Today we're exploring the professed martial arts style of certain indigenous tribes in North America, known as Okacheta. Since Native Americans focus more heavily on oral traditions rather than written traditions, an actual systemized version of Native American martial arts is relatively new. But it has been recognized by the elders of certain indigenous tribes themselves, so here we are. Okacheta is unique in that it starts its practitioners off with weapons right away and then formulates its hand-to-hand combat based on those movements. The most famous weapon being a gunstock war club, a bludgeoning device designed to look like the butt of a rifle. Man, that would have been a great entry in my interesting self-defense tools of history series. A response to an attack was based on the 4 cardinal directions. East represented quick response. South represented aggression in attacking. North represented taking control of an opponent. And West was your takedown and your finish. Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 7. This is going to be a fun one for all you WWE fans out there, so make sure you stick to the end and follow. Today we're exploring the sport of catch-as-catch-can. It's a style of submission grappling that actually predates Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Its name is meant to contradict the more commonly known styles of Western wrestling. You see, in Greco-Roman, folk, and freestyle, you typically win by points or pin, whereas catch-as-catch-can allowed you to catch the win as you can. That include locks, strangles, as well as pin and points. But what you might not know is that catch literally invented pro wrestling. You see, catch wrestlers used to literally be carnies, traveling from town to town, fighting for prize money. As you can imagine, this was a bit hard on the body, so they would sprinkle in worked or predetermined matches to give themselves a little bit of a break. They also found that people were willing to throw more money at them if they sprinkled in a little drama and showmanship. So if you dig the WWE, make sure you thank a catch wrestler. That guy looks familiar. Alright, now hit like and comment your favorite pro wrestler. You made it this far. This is Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 8. This one came by request in the comments, so if you have an idea of a martial arts style you want me to cover in the future, you know I'm reading them. Today we're covering Panatukan, a dirty boxing style with origins from the Philippines. It is also known as Filipino boxing, but you shouldn't get that mixed up with boxers who are Filipino. This style was developed by the warring tribes of the Philippines, so contrary to Western wrestling, everything's on the table. Biting, spitting, eye gouging, pick your poison. But the most famous aspect of this martial arts is called limb destruction. Also known as defanging the snake. It's where you attack your attacker's hand as they're attacking, essentially taking the idea out of their head. Common targets are biceps, triceps, and hands. And we all know how fragile hands can be. I don't want to talk about it. Panatukan even has its own subset of combative grappling, known as Dumog. Hey, who's that good-looking guy getting his butt kicked? You've seen Panatukan be used up against a cage by such champions as Josh Barnett and Randy Couture. And me, though let's face it, I'm not nearly as cool. It's Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 9. So, this one's a curious one. If you agree with me that this is weird, make sure that you're hitting like and follow, because I need it. Today, we are exploring the martial arts style of Yale Güreş, otherwise known as Turkish Oil Wrestling. It's the Turkish national sport, and basically what they do is douse themselves in olive oil and wrestle the crap out of each other. So they wear these pants made out of buffalo hide, which can kind of be considered leather knickers. Now the goal of this competition is called Pucha Kızık. It's where you stuff your hand down the pants or the kizbit. And then you lift them up by the kizbit, toppling them over their head onto their back. Traditionally, there was no time limit to these matches, so it wasn't uncommon for matches to last upwards to a day, even 2. Nowadays, however, matches are limited to about 40 minutes. I just think it's interesting because nowadays Western wrestling is switching from singlets to rash guards and fight shorts to attract new kids to the sport. Meanwhile, in Turkey, it's Weird Martial Arts Styles of History, Part 10. As is tradition, this being the 10th installment, we're going to end this series here unless this video gets 20,000 likes. Today, let's talk about the Hawaiian style of Kapu. It was the exclusive style of King Kamehameha's honor guards, and it was forbidden to be taught to anybody else besides them. The word kapu actually translates to forbidden. The word Kueilani translates to 2 hits, and it was a name that was subsequently given to the god of this particular martial art. This was a martial arts style designed for island warfare, so it focused on throwing, scratching, biting, and bone breaking. But my personal favorite is their focus on weapons and open ocean warfare. First of all, these guys practice not only throwing spears, but how to catch them and throw them back. How intimidating would that be? They also developed a structured fighting system for the very paddles that they rode into shore with. There are still schools across Hawaii who teach it to this day, and they've incorporated Danzanryu, a Hawaiian style of jiu-jitsu that I got started in.